now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 153 of the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dawg, able on Twitter/X. We're joined by Mr. Harrison Tarr. Tarr, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, man. Been a quiet weekend on the plains, huh? not a lot going on since the last show we had on Thursday. No, super good week for me, Dylan. Got to spend some time with my lovely girlfriend as we come up on our 5-year anniversary. So got some time to hang in. Yeah, thank you very much. Hanging out there with her. And thank you for covering on Thursday and being our fearless leader, as you always are here at the College Loop. I did publish tonight's rundown. Thought I'd give that a try so you guys could kind of get a concept. It looked much better when I had it in bullet points on Google Docs. It didn't translate nicely over to YouTube. So if you guys can follow that, awesome. If not, I'm sorry. I will get better with the formatting on that front. But super excited to be here talking about Auburn Athletics. Obviously, a huge win for Auburn women's basketball this afternoon over number 7 LSU, the reigning national champions. We'll talk more about that. Daniel Larck will return to the show this afternoon in a cameo role and give his account at around 6:30 Central Time. And Jacob Hillman will join us about 6:45 to cap us off for Auburn women's basketball and transition us over into Auburn men's basketball. Give his takeaways. Once again, that's Jacob Hillman from Auburn Sports Network and Daniel Larck from 1819 News. Took me a second for the I almost said 1813. That would not have been the right years. James Barnett, what's up, my man? How are you? WDE, Chris Ghazi. It looks like you're hanging out with us too. Good to see you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, give us your questions in the chat. We will try to get to them as we are able. Should be a really busy, really fun show. Chris, we're doing great, man. Thanks so much. Good to see you. Hope everything's going well with everybody here. So since we finally got out of the neck of that bad weather. All right, Dylan. Sorry, I've been running my mouth a lot. Let's get into it. Lots of news with Auburn football, and it starts with Cadillac Williams.
It does. I mean, the last time we saw each other, the biggest news of the college football century broke because Nick Saban announced his retirement. Ryan Williams announced his decommitment, and everything was looking good and swell if you're an Auburn fan talking to Alabama fans. Well, then 24 hours later, news broke about Cadillac Williams announcing his resignation from the Auburn football staff. He will no longer be Auburn's assistant head coach / running backs coach. Best of luck in his career. We're not gonna dive into any rumors that are getting thrown around. We only deal with facts here. And Tim Tulane Taylor, yes, they are melting. It was very fun talking to Bama fans after that, because a lot of Bama fans don't know a world of Nick Saban no world of Alabama without Nick Saban. And I can't really say that I'm too well adversed in that time period before Nick Saban, because my first conscious memory was 2004, and that was the Citadel game, and after that was kind of a blank, and then woke up for 2009, and got to enjoy the 2010 season. But yes, Cadillac is of course gone. He is going to go find a better job that suits the improvement of his career. I don't think he wanted to see himself as a running backs coach anymore. He wanted to be something more than that, but that was never going to happen under the Freeze tenure. And Tara, I'll let you say your piece on the matter.
On the departure of Cadillac Williams?
Yeah.
I'll say right now, as we kind of let everything play itself out, like you mentioned, Dylan, we're not touching rumors. We're not touching personal opinions or what we think on that regard is there is no denying Cadillac Williams' importance to the Auburn football program, dating back to his time as a student athlete, but most notably for saving and righting the ship, and to just a year and a half ago at this point now, and it feels like yesterday in 2022 when Cadillac Williams took the reins as the first black head coach of the Auburn football program, which should never be overlooked. So it's such a great and deserving achievement for Cadillac, and him assuring the Auburn faithful, the Auburn recruits, and the Auburn players and beyond that Auburn football was going to be okay. Single-handedly saved this ship. I don't care what anybody says. I know it takes a village, but that was the correct choice in the leader and an interim coach. And his impact on young men's lives is evident. His players love him. Everyone that works around him has only ever said good things about him. The Auburn family adopted him all over again in 2022, as if they didn't already. And I don't have to mention his historic numbers that he put up when he actually suited up and toted the rock for Auburn. Very, very excited for what the future can hold for Cadillac Williams. I don't know that this is a permanent goodbye from Auburn, and I mean, I sure as hell hope not. He left with only kind words regarding the free staff and the program. So we're wishing him the absolute best. That's kind of what I got. That's my piece. I will be a fan of Cadillac Williams wherever he's at, not just because he coached at my alma mater, but because of the kind of integrity and kind of man that he not just projected to be, but was, and then the way he carried himself and the way his family was so committed and dedicated to Auburn. That was no easy task. And let's be honest, guys, when Brian Harsin left this place, it was in a shitstorm, and it would have taken a madman to embrace that challenge head first. And he just dove in by serving and by loving on those guys, and that resonated with me. His passion for serving. So wishing him the best.
It's worth saying. Cadillac went crazy.
He did
to take over a ship that was looked like it was sinking, but they were able to patch it up just in time. But it is. I do think Cadillac is probably off to. I don't want to say Power 5. I don't think he wants to be a running backs coach anymore. Either coordinator job or head coach job. And I definitely think there are probably some teams around the world that around the country, not around the world, but around the country that would kill to have a coach that will support your players and support your school like Cadillac did at Auburn. I don't really think that. I don't think that Hugh Freeze, and I know everyone was kind of up in arms about the whole Hugh Freeze hire, and so up in the air if it's a hire that Auburn will love or regret going into year 2. So we're not going to dive into that. But I don't think that, knowing how some coaches work, that it was Freeze's decision to bring keep Cadillac on the staff. You're just trying to get a guy who's a controversial figure. And try to find someone who's not so controversial in the Auburn sphere to kind of back your hire. And Cadillac was that guy. And I think that's pretty much it. I think it's just Cadillac wasn't a member, was not on the dream staff that Hugh Freeze wanted to put together. But ultimately, his coaching speaks for itself. He will be missed on the staff. And I do wish him the best because he is going to be the best wherever he goes. And
the same can be said for Zach Etheridge, who we're about to talk about here in just a second. I'll go ahead and lead into this. Zach Etheridge announcing he's also stepping away from the Auburn football program. I will address those rumors just briefly, Dylan. It does sound like there is a place for him at Houston, and that's a good thing. This is like not me like spreading bullshit, but it does sound like there's a place for Zach Etheridge at Houston, and he certainly deserves his opportunity to work upward in the coaching world and in the football sphere. That young man has done a tremendous job and built him and established himself as a tremendous recruiter, tremendous coach, and great at building relationships with his guys. He's got a lot of X's and O's book smart, but he's also has a great worldview. It's going to be a tremendous asset to wherever he lands. I'll say it that way. But I think it is Houston. I think he's got a tremendous opportunity with a program that's obviously going into year 2 with the Big 12. Should that be the case for him? So wishing him the absolute best. I think on all accords, this is probably the best situation. It sounds like I'm calling back to Cadillac, but I'm specifically entailing this one to Zach Etheridge for what he needs, not just only in his professional career, but in his personal career, being able to pursue his future family and his relationship with his girlfriend. Wishing them the absolute best.
Yeah, and Houston, he's going from Power 5 to Power 5. And I'll go ahead and address the comment from Tim Tolmain Taylor. Curious, what do y'all think will be the impacts player-wise with the 2 departures? I don't think Zach Etheridge leaving affects the departures of any defensive backs. Because I do think that and I'll go ahead and break this, with Crime Dawg coming back after leaving for Texas A&M. With Crime Dawg coming back, I don't think he would skip a beat. Crime Dawg was really someone that held the secondary all together alongside Zach Etheridge, and he's a veteran defensive back coach. He knows his stuff, and he came back because of the firing of Ron Roberts, and because I think they just didn't mesh very well together. But with Cadillac, Quez is back. We'll get to that later in a second, but I don't think this is going to affect any departures that I know of.
And to kind of build off that, that's all I have to add because I'm kind of on the same page as you, Dylan. I think we'd already know. If we don't know, we'll know in the next 48 those young men have to kind of make that decision kind of quick and get on another squad ASAP if they're going to hit the portal. I think that we know, and I don't think it has a tremendous impact. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors in terms of what they're telling these guys in recruiting meetings. I mean, there may have been some transparency. Who's to say about, hey, you're a great fit here. I'm going to be XYZ. This is my plan. I don't know. That's all speculation. Like I said, you can't. I always say you can't spell assume without making an ass out of you and me. But I think we'd already know, which should bring some comfort to a lot of Auburn fans. Now, I do want to kind of touch base real quick with James Barnett's comment about the length taking of hiring coordinators. Sorry, Dylan's typing on one screen and I'm on another screen and then getting distracted. So that's super cool. James mentioned, fellas, any idea why it's taking so long to hire coordinators? I understand DC, but OC, is it possible Hugh is looking at another offensive coordinator? This is an interesting one for me, Dylan. And there's also the element, everyone knows that we're looking for the right guy at DC. And that's going to be a kind of a tedious process. Offensive coordinator is an interesting sell now since Hugh Freeze is going to be calling plays in 2024. It's kind of like telling someone, hey, I want you to do my project for me, but I'm still going to present it. And I don't know that that's a horrible analogy, Dylan. I think it's kind of the right thing, the right concept, because you can always have quality control guys and guys that understand their roles, but now you're telling OCs, hey, look, I'm looking for this guy, and there's plenty of people that want it, but I'm looking for a guy that wants to come in and help me install an offense, but ultimately I'm going to have full control of this, which when you're working for a boss in general and at any job, they have the final say anyway, so I guess it really doesn't matter. But it is an interesting sell. So that's kind of where my head's at. Defensive coordinator makes perfect sense to me. Kind of heard before the season that before the season ended, that Roberts was probably going to be out at the end of the year. Taking that lateral move to Florida means he really did not want to be at Auburn anymore. Now it's finding the long-term guy. And by long-term, you're hoping 3 or 4 year replacement that you can really bring in to install a defense. I don't know what that looks like, but it does have to be a careful process because we mentioned it earlier, Dylan, not tonight, but in previous shows. This won't be a make or break coordinator hire, but it will turn a lot of heads. People will be watching.
I mean, now this with every rumor and tweet and all the fan backlash that some things give, they're really trying to make the second season sound like it's going to be more important than it is. Because of course, bringing in a recruiting class like that is going to spark expectations, which is like the worst thing you can give to any kind of Auburn football team. And I'm speaking from experience. But looking at it at the coordinators, like you said, you're looking for an offensive coordinator who isn't going to be running the offense. That's exactly what you're looking for. So you have to sell that to a coach like, hey, I'm calling the plays. I'm just going to need you to be a recruiter for me. So you're not looking for other coordinators. You're looking for a recruiting coordinator that can just have the OC name. And that's something I was thinking about because, with Derek Nix, he wasn't really a coordinator. He doesn't call plays at Ole Miss, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be leaving. But also, Lane Kiffin is a troll, so I don't believe anything that he tweets. You just never know because the offense side of the ball is going to be so dependent on whatever Hugh Freeze wants to do. We saw that this past year. Whenever he tried to give the keys to Phil Montgomery, and it just spiraled out of control. And spiral is a pun because the ball very rarely spiraled anywhere outside of the defender's hands because of how much of a jumbled mess the offense was. So finding an OC, it doesn't really matter, or it's not going to matter who it is as long as it's someone who understands. It could be Trovon Reed for all it matters. Just a guy who's going to be recruiting. And I did just add a no tip about Trovon Reed in the rundown too, so I'll get more into that.
I do need to mention that your RC still needs to know how to help install an offense. Like
that,
that is still very imperative that it cannot be all recruiting focused. We saw what happened this year when it's clear that the coaching staff's more focused on recruiting than they are on game planning. There's got to be a balance. It's a tough league to win in. It's a tough level to win at, and you got to make sure that you're getting the right guy. So I think that puts a nice bow on it there, Dylan, is that you're trying to find that happy medium.
And I will say, OC, we don't know who it's going to be, but we do know who half of the defense coordinators are going to be, because Charles Kelly, the former Colorado, I forgot Colorado existed for a second. The former Colorado defense coordinator who
ESPN
won, who was do what?
ESPN didn't forget they existed.
Well, yeah. 24/7 didn't either because he was 24/7's recruiter of the year. Now he has now been in Auburn for I think like a week and a half now, and now his official position has been named by Auburn Football. He is going to be the co-defensive coordinator, and also going to be working alongside the defensive backs, alongside Coach Crime Dog. So we're probably going to find another coordinator who's probably going to focus more on the front seven side of things
and schematics.
And schematics, of course.
Just general schematics.
And I will say to everybody, just want to say it's not going to be T-Rob. If you've already missed that, he's going to Georgia. So hip hip hooray! Just kidding. So there's no telling because at any point, if it's just message board talk about who they think it's going to be, it's just rumors on Twitter who it's going to be. No one else is in Hugh's thread except for Hugh Freeze. So no one really knows what's going on. I would love it if I knew. It would definitely make it a lot less. What's the word I'm looking for here? Do I want to say stressful or?
I was thinking
chaotic?
you were going to go stressful.
Stressful or chaotic, and at some point those words are
interchangeable.
Exactly. But yeah, Charles Kelly, at least 1/3 of the coordinators are going to be named this offseason, and I do think it's a home run hire, just for what it is. And it does beg the question for position coach wise. You now have an opening at the running back position. So at some point, if you find another running backs coach who could do the recruiting side of things, there you go. But I do think you're going to be looking for someone. I have seen some people throw around Cam Martin and Brad Lester.
Cam Martin's a weird one.
Cam Martin is a very weird one.
I
Brad
get the
Lester,
Auburn connection, but I don't know.
And here's the thing. I love Trovon Reed. I love Caddy. I love Zach Etheridge. I love T-Rob. I love, even though he's in Georgia and Alabama now, or he's worked for both of those teams. And of course, T-Will. At some point, what point would it make just to hire a bunch of Auburn alum?
Well, it's a tightrope. This is tough when you even look at the head coaching level. When you build a staff out of all alumnus or former players, you walk a fine line. Kirby Smart worked out great at Georgia in terms of you're bringing in a coveted guy he's coming to coach his alma mater, and that's on a much bigger scale. I get that, but think about if Auburn would have hired Cadillac Williams as its head coach and things gone horribly wrong, then you have a hard relationship you got to break off, and no one wins. It's like an ugly divorce. Look what happened with Scott Frost in Nebraska. Look no further than that. I mean,
happy.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, he's rich. So, anyways, but it's tough to build a staff out of all guys that were from this program. On one side, they can recruit this program better than anybody else can because they know it and how it impacted their lives. They can give live testimonials face to face to recruits and their parents. But on the flip side of that coin, if they're not doing their job well, or if they're not a fit, or they want to go elsewhere to pursue their career, then you have these weird, it's like a bad breakup where it's like, I don't really want to talk to them, but I want to see them. We've all been there. It's one of those, and you do build a metaphorical ceiling of how high this program can take you, because you've got to bring in guys that have ascended beyond what some of these former players have done and have experience elsewhere. And know how to win in different ways and different levels. Like I said, it's hard to win in this league. So continuing to just build a program of just alumnus and former players, it is a double-edged sword, and you have to have a healthy mix. So I like what you're mentioning there, Dylan, that you got to have a diversity in terms of backgrounds.
And it is worth mentioning that, as I said that, I just recalled the fact that Charles Kelly definitely played for Auburn as a defensive back in his old playing days. So
no, and look, I understand that, but it's like 2 out, 1 in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. Like you're keeping that, maintaining that balance. Don't necessarily go get guys just because you have an affinity for them for what they did at Auburn as a player or even as a previous coach. You can respect the hell out of those guys and cheer them on to success. I mean, I know that we do. You and I are big T-Will guys. I will always be appreciative for everything he did there or did at Auburn, but that doesn't mean they have to come home. That does not mean that they have to come back at all times.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at the staff as we speak, and the only position coach, or not like the support staff, I think a support staff that sounds better. The only support staff that I can notice off of the rip that is someone who played at Auburn is Trovon Reed, and of course he got a promotion he's going to be an on the road reporter or recruiter instead of being just from in-house. So I mean that works out perfectly fine because Trovon Reed, I don't know how he stands as like a position coach. I'm sure he'd be great, but as a recruiter, Trovon Reed is probably one of the biggest assets on the football staff. And I'm so glad to hear that he was going to get that promotion because Trovon Reed has been probably one of the biggest recruiters on this team.
If not the biggest recruiter.
If not the biggest.
Closer.
It's him and Walker White, 1A, 1B. On top of that,
and nobody rivals Trovon Reed's drip. Let's just be honest; he's the drippiest guy in Auburn, Alabama. That's just a fact.
And I'll be buying his hat soon.
I unironically want him to start his own clothing line. I think there's a tremendous Trovon. If you're hearing me, we'd love to partner because this is a concept. I think there's a tremendous market there. I'm just saying. A lot of cool stuff we could do with the TR initial. You've seen what the guys have done with the TWR initials. Just imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was I'm trying to remember who exactly it was. Was it College Football Edits or whoever put out the official tweet about him getting the promotion? The hat that he wore, like a little cartoon tiny tiger walking across, is hard. So definitely tried to find that, but I couldn't find it anywhere.
I'm personal friends with College Football Edits. I don't know why we haven't connected yet. Anyways, he was fully in my Can't War Eagle class. I'm not joking.
Well, get him on. Yeah. Charles Kelly being named defensive coordinator. In Cadillac and Zach Etheridge being gone hurts our hearts, but ultimately probably the best moves to move on from the former staff. Exactly. Because at some point, I don't want to say it like this, but getting rid of all of the former coaching staffs or getting rid of all the former coaching staffs would probably not hurt the team, because at some point you got to let your coach.
Yeah.
You cannot give someone the keys to the car without giving them the wheels.
And there's an element of if you're going to let it run its course, let them go all in and run the course. And if it doesn't work, then you decide. But until then, you got to give it its fair chance, which has not always been what people think to be Auburn's MO, but you got to give it its fair chance to let it install its own stuff, whatever that may be.
And I will say, and I know Auburn fans hate him or respect him, but hate him. There was a former coach from the other side of the state who just retired, who his first instinct to tell the boosters was, you're going to give me full control or you won't have me at all. That needs to be instilled if you want success in your football program.
Yeah,
you cannot control the coach because the coach needs to be in control. Exactly. So, I mean, ultimately, that's what I think it ultimately is with those two being gone. Crime Dog coming back is great. Charles Kelly being announced is great. And also, in terms of coming back,
and Charles Kelly switching over to personnel,
it has been announced by the man himself, by the man who wears cowboy hat and jean shorts and cowboy boots himself, that Jarquez Hunter has officially announced that he'll be returning to the Tigers in 2024. Auburn's leading rusher, who got so close to getting 1,000 yards. He has announced that he'll be returning. And it looks like Auburn's returning all of their running backs from last year in terms of Jarquez Hunter, Damari Austin, Jeremiah Cobb, Brian Battie, Sean Jackson, the legend, and of course the walk-on Justin Jones, who played very well in the special teams role that he took on and had a pretty good carries against UMass. But the Auburn running back room is back. Officially,
and they went and got him some help. And Mississippi State offensive tackle transfer Percy Lewis and his commitment to Auburn since the last time that we spoke with the Loopers.
Tar, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Percy Lewis is 6'8", 360 pounds, got all SEC honorable mentions, and of course, is again just a massive human being. What I'm seeing and what I've been hearing is that Percy Lewis will be probably the starting tackle, either right or left. I'm not too sure which one it is, but it's going to try to pave the way for Dylan Wade to move to the guard position, where I think the staff likes him a lot better at. And I can't lie, I prefer Dylan Wade to be elsewhere on the offensive line after last year. But everyone last year had a pretty rough patch, except for the GOAT of centers, Connor Liu. But Percy Lewis is a huge pickup for the stretch portal class. A class that's not really shocking people with names getting added, but definitely the personnel that is getting are definitely very helpful to this quality players. So not recruiting the guys that are rated, but the guys you want. Instilling a mantra from a former coach, but doing it way better than the former coach did. Yeah, Percy Lewis definitely a guy who's probably going to be an immediate starter. I'm going to try to hold off on making any comments about how good he will be because last time I did that, i.e. last offseason, Gunnar Britton let me down.
Yeah, but this young man has SEC experience. I'm sorry. There's value. There's so much value.
Yeah, it does help.
And also, let's not forget for 3 years of it in an air raid scheme, in terms of pass blocking, that's something that Auburn needs help with. So,
and it does help that he is 6'8", 360 pounds.
Yeah, that doesn't hurt.
That definitely helps a lot.
That helps the cause. Let's talk a little bit about, and Auburn fans, feel free to jump in if you guys are hanging out right here in the College Loop. Thank you guys for joining us. I know that there's a young man that all of you are keeping an eye on quite closely, and that is 5-star wide receiver Ryan Williams. He took his OV at Texas A&M. Everyone saw there's like a bazillion pictures. And then he came out and said to On3's Chad Simmons that his top 5 are neck and neck. He needs someone to excel and take the throne. That top 5, I will remind you real quick, is Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, and Texas. So this young man has decided he's going to play ball in the SEC. That is for sure going to happen. I will be interested. I'm a little shocked that this came out so quickly after his OV at A&M. I saw a lot of message boards comments mentioning his how much he enjoyed his time at A&M and that things looked good for Gig'em Nation, 12th man, whatever you want to say. I would not be shocked if Auburn winds up in the final running. In terms of when they choke down, I'm certain Ryan will at least hint at something that there will be a choke down in the from 5 to 2 or 3. I would not be shocked if Auburn remains in the mix. I also would not be surprised if Alabama remains in the mix. I don't know that he's completely decommitted from the Tide, despite backing off his pledge just a few days ago. And Leanne, I promise. I see Leanne Owen said, "How about those ladies being LSU today? Almost hit 8,000 at the Nev." We are getting there, and we're going to spend some time on that. But Dylan, but before we do that, we're going to round out our football conversation. Then we are actually going straight into women's basketball with Daniel Larck, who will be here just momentarily, right here and joining us on the College Loop live stream. Dylan, you mentioned before the show that obviously adding another 5-star to this mix is intangibly valuable. And immeasurably valuable, rather. How does Auburn sell itself when you're getting pretty crowded at that position?
You look at it the same way that, again, the guy on the other side of the state used to do it. It wasn't a matter of at this point, it's pretty evident that these freshmen are going to be playing just because of how good they are. I mean, looking at Cam Coleman, looking at Perry Thompson, those two kids are just absolutely more talented than any other wide receiver on this team. I don't want to give him. I do think Jay Fair definitely rivals them, and I'd love to see if Camden Brown actually stepped up and reached his full potential. But Perry Thompson, Cam Coleman are going to be playing. As simple as that. Malcolm Simmons and Bryce Kane are going to see the field. Now you're looking at it you're going to be looking at Ryan Williams. You're looking at it from, do you want to be a key contributor to a team, or do you want to be part of what could be the most talented wide receiver room of all time? And I mean, of all time. This is already the most talented wide receiver room in Auburn football history. Now he has a chance to make it the most talented of all time. I will say it. If Auburn misses out on him, I don't think it's a huge loss because of who you're bringing in. I do think Ryan Williams is definitely very talented and very quick. And my mantra for the remainder of these last 24 days is anywhere but Bama. ABB, if you will. And I don't want to say AB too loud because Tarr will have flashbacks. But yeah, I do think Ryan Williams will definitely be a huge contributor to this team no matter what. This could be the youngest starting wide receiver room in the country.
Can we make it anyone but Bama anyone? That way it's ABBA. We can start singing Dancing Queen. It's going to be awesome.
There's your show tunes coming out of you. And I will say, before we get Daniel here to talk about the women's basketball game, which was a huge, huge win, I will say we've not officially been able to talk about Kalen DeBoer. Just in just a short spiel, we should give our thoughts on that because he is going to be very important going into the.
I'm going to be quick. And then I'm going to let you be quick, and then I'm going to hit the ad read. Then we're going to bring Daniel Larck in to talk about Auburn's huge victory over number 7 LSU here in just 1 moment. So y'all bear with us. DeBoer is a hell of a ball coach. I mean, if you look at his resume, this looks like some stuff that I've done on NCAA 14 before. I'm going to be honest with you. In terms of starting at Eastern Michigan, working his way up through Fresno State, through Washington, taking Washington to the title game, and now getting his opportunity at the premier college football program in the country. I know that hurts a lot of people to say, but it's true. Imitation is the best form of flattery. There's some notes you can take from Coach Saban, greatest to ever do it. I think Alabama got a great ball coach. I don't know if he's the right guy. Time will tell. I sure as hell would not want to be the guy to follow Nick Saban. I mean, I would, because the money would be great. But I at the same time, that is a hell of a legacy left. I guess unfinished business for a lot of people too, in terms of maintaining that standard is going to be tough. You're going to suffer transfer portal, I guess, exits for the first time in a long time, and it'll be interesting to see Moore handles this. I think he's a great coach, obviously well connected with his guys, good quarterback developer. And I don't know that he's the answer at Alabama. He's not done it in the SEC yet, but I'm sorry, at the head coaching level in the SEC yet.
I was going to say in the South.
Yeah, not done it in the South yet, but at the same time, he's capable of getting the best out of his guys. I'll be interested. I think that the program stays in good shape over on the other side of the state, but I do think it makes things a hell of a lot more interesting, because I still don't consider him a top 5 coach in the SEC as we stand now.
I don't. He's definitely a great coach. He got Washington to where they are.
Out of the mud.
He beat Dan Lanning 3 times. He beat Steve Sarkisian twice. Definitely knows how to win. But can he win in the Southeastern Conference? Because the furthest he's been south is Fresno State. The closest he's been to the Southeast is Indiana. So I'm not too sure of how great of a hire it is. I think it's a good hire in terms of the quality of coach, but I don't think it's a great hire for what it would mean for the future. I think Alabama definitely has the talent to, still win games. But this is going to be a different level of coach that Bama fans probably aren't very used to. This is going to be a offensive-minded play calling head coach. And if my memory succeeds me here, I don't believe Alabama has had success with offensive-minded coaches. Nick Saban, Gene Stallings, Bear Bryant, all very defensive-minded coaches. Kalen DeBoer is going to be hands-on in that offense, and honestly, I don't see Milroe being the starting quarterback in 2024 in an air raid system.
That's a hell of a conversation to open up at a later date when we see more developments. We'll make sure we maintain a close eye on that, obviously, as we naturally would here at the College Loop podcast. We're going to roll into Auburn's 67-62 victory over LSU. But right after these ad reads, y'all hang tight. I promise you guys, we are just as excited, if not more excited than anybody here for Coach Jay and company. Daniel Larck eagerly awaiting his return on the College Loop podcast, sitting backstage. So we will get to that in just a moment. But before we do so, I want to remind you guys, if you guys are, well, obviously you're watching here on the live stream. So if you're hanging out with us right here on the live stream, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment, ring the bell so you can stay up to date with everything going on right here at the College Loop podcast. That is the number one way you can support us. It's absolutely free, doesn't cost you a dime, and you make sure you don't miss out on any of the action-packed stuff we've got coming up this spring, because good Lord knows that athletics do not stop in the spring. As a matter of fact, they go harder. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It feels like we're running a 3-ring circus around here sometimes, and we love every single second of it. Help us get up to 800 subs. You guys are the best. We have 741 of our closest friends, Dylan.
Yes, 741.
741 of our closest friends and loopers. You guys are the reason we're able to continue to provide you guys with this, if you want to call it entertainment, on a weekly basis, 3 times a week. And we cannot tell you guys how much we appreciate it. If you're listening to the show after the live stream, totally cool. And if you're listening on a streaming platform, even better. Make sure you give us 5 stars and thumbs up, whatever the highest rating on your streaming platform of choice is, and share the show with a friend so we can continue to build the College Loop family. You guys are the best listeners in the world. That is a scientific fact, been proven by 10 out of 10 doctors. You guys are the best. Now, one other thing, if you want to continue to support the College Loop podcast, you can head over to thewarreport.com, www.thewarreport.com, and pick up your very own College Loop War Report Podcast Network co-branded Feeling Loopy t-shirt. Dylan wants to throw it on the stream anytime. That's fine with me. I'm sitting here trying to riff while he's getting there. It is. Comes in 5 different colorways, only $25. Most comfortable shirt you will ever own in your entire life. And it's the way to tell the world that you are a looper. And that's something you should be proud of. And that's something we take an immense amount of pride in. So head over to thewarreport.com. Also, make sure you head over to the War Report Oh, I'm sorry, Dylan. I apologize. If once you pick up your Feeling Libby t-shirt, use hashtag Feeling Libby. That's feeling without a G on whatever social media platform makes you the happiest. Tag us in it. Send it to collegeloop1@gmail.com if you feel so inclined, if you don't want to go on social media. And we'll throw it up on the next stream, next show, whatever that looks like. You guys are the best. While you guys are at it, make sure you go check out the other podcast network features. That'd be the Up-Tempo Podcast and the War Report. Give those guys some love. They are the best. They're absolute dogs. Can't tell you how much we love working with them. And now, without further ado, it is time. He's grinning ear from ear in the back room. I can see it on the bottom screen. For Daniel Larck to make his triumphant return, you know him best as a founding member of the College Loop Podcast. We know him best as our friend, Mr. Daniel Larck of 1819 News, is here in Auburn women's basketball. Did the unthinkable, taking down Kim Mulkey and Angel Reese 67-62 inside of a packed out Neville Arena for women's basketball. Daniel Larck was sitting courtside. Daniel, has your blood pressure come down yet?
No. I was flying up I-85 northbound at about 90 miles per hour, as a matter of fact. But so good to be back. I've missed every single one of you, and just so excited to see what this program's done. Hopefully my audio is okay. Never done this on my phone before. But yeah, this is a monumental thing for Coach J here at Auburn. She did it in her first year, upsetting the number 4 team in the country, Tennessee Volunteers. She did it again now. And really, the sky's the limit for what this program can do going forward, because this is still a roster that, while this is by far the best roster Coach J's had at Auburn, it is far from being even mid-level in the SEC. And that's just the unfortunate fact about it, but it's getting better. And, this rebuild was going to take time, and I still think it's ahead of schedule. And I just can't say enough good things about Coach J, and just watching her out-coach Kim Mulkey, arguably the best in the game today.
Absolutely. And let's be honest here. It started on the defensive end of the floor, Daniel.
Sure.
Right? And there was a clear defensive strategy. You heard it in the post-game, region post-game show when Britt Bowen was speaking with the entire coaching, or half the coaching staff of Auburn women's basketball in terms of their game plan. And their game plan is obviously to limit Angel Reese. Well, you only limit her to 24 points. She does what she does because she's one of the best players, if not the best. There's a young lady in Iowa who has an argument in women's basketball. But how did Auburn get it done while still giving up 24 to Angel Reese on the defensive end of the floor?
Well, like you said, defense was a focus. They limited a team that averages 93 points a game to 62. And that is not easy to do at all. But they got it done. And while they didn't eliminate Angel Reese at all, they eliminated everyone else. One other LSU player scored 12. Can't remember who it was. No one else broke double figures.
There were 3 in double figures. You had Morrow and Johnson both hit 12.
Gotcha. Well, they made LSU do things that they aren't particularly comfortable doing. And another thing they did, this LSU team loves to shoot threes. Can either of you tell me how many threes LSU shot today?
2.
And technically 1, because that one at the end, like, if they had more time, they wouldn't have shot 3. Like, that's not what they were doing today. So Auburn was like, you know what you like to do. We're not going to let you do that. And that's hard to do in the game of basketball. And they forced LSU to play in areas that just weren't comfortable. They forced them to drive in, and no one was able to really penetrate. Not even Angel Reese there at the end. Jemiah Mingo-Young really made sure that no one was going to post her up.
Absolutely. And another narrative that Auburn defeated today, guys. I mean, there's no hiding behind the fact that Auburn has sucked in the third quarter games over the past couple weeks. They've come out of halftime flat, regardless of where they're at. They've come out of halftime looking like they're unmotivated. They're not one coherent unit. And Daniel, they got the job done today. Sure. Was there a tangible? What was the difference maker?
I feel like the big thing was only going into halftime down. I think it was 4 or 3 or something. Maybe it was just 1, but they were only down by a couple at half. 3. Okay, they're only down by 3 at half. And I feel like that's ultimately what made the difference is when they went back into the locker room, Coach Jay and company were able to tell the team, like, look, you've competed for a half. You're 3 points down right now, and you have the opportunity to knock off the number 7 team in the country. You've just got to stay focused. We know we've sucked in the third quarter, but you just got to get through that. And I just ultimately feel like they just wanted it.
And not to mention, I mean, they won the third and fourth quarters, outscoring LSU 17-15 and then 16-10. It's not like they were just praying that LSU wasn't hitting buckets. Granted, they could not buy a bucket coming down the stretch. But
no.
You were going to need some help for this, right? It was going to take some help.
Oh, absolutely.
Else you need to be off, and you played your best brand of basketball. You mentioned that the rebuild is ahead of schedule. What does a win like this do for propelling a program?
Well, I mean, you can look at that question from a number of angles. From the recruiting angle, there were so many recruits at the game today. And women's basketball recruiting, it is harder than men's basketball recruiting because
Absolutely.
it's harder there's just not as much exposure. There's just not as much out there. But there were two sections like zoned off for recruits today. They were both packed, as was the rest of the arena. So it does a lot from that angle. The transfer portal, same thing. NCAA tournament, like this is a signature win. If Auburn's on the bubble, like they kind of were last year, for parts of the season, this really gets you over the hump. And I feel like this win alone, it's a confidence booster. Because now going into the Vanderbilt game on, I think it's Thursday night, on the road, the team can be like, look what we did Sunday. There's no reason we can't do that again. And it just completely changes your team morale. And ultimately, I just feel like it really makes making the NCAA tournament a possibility for this season.
It certainly puts it on the table. Dylan?
Yeah, and looking at it from a standpoint, just we've been to a lot of Auburn WBB basketball games, and the environment was nothing like it was today. And you talk about like Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark being bigger than the sport because they just attract people to come to the games. And you talk about the two recruiting sections being packed. What does the environment do for Auburn recruiting and ultimately just the brand itself?
I feel like it shows these potential recruits that, hey, if you're doing your thing, Auburn will support you. We saw it with volleyball this year. They broke their all-time program attendance record, and women's basketball did it today. So it just shows these prospects like, look, Auburn fans, if you build this thing, they will come. To reference my all-time favorite movie, Field of Dreams. But yeah, it shows that this is a fan base that is just as passionate, just as supportive as anyone in the country. And playing in front of a crowd like this is nothing new for LSU. They do it all the time. All of their home games are like this. But it really shows that Auburn can be like that as well.
Kind of building off that, Daniel. When I say the number 7,720, how hard is it to fight back a smile after something like that, man?
It's impossible. I've loved this program since I stepped foot on campus. I've loved covering it. Outside of winter break games, there have been 4 women's basketball games in my 3 years at Auburn that I haven't been at either as a fan or covering. And my goal is to not let that number get any bigger. I love this team. I love Coach Jay. I love every player I've been able to interview. Just that this program means a lot to me. It holds a very special place in my heart, and I love seeing it succeed. So I haven't been this happy for this program since that Tennessee game when we were storming the court, which I wish could have happened today. It didn't, but whatever. You can't get everything you want, but
pay the fine, damn it.
Yeah, come on now. But yeah, it's just it's like like I said, it's impossible to not smile.
Yeah, I can't echo enough what you just said. As long as you know me, at least I hope that I've instilled this in you. How important women's sports is to me,
Sure.
and how much this basketball program in particular and Coach Johnny Harris, what they mean to me. I entered Auburn as a freshman when we were the laughing stock of women's basketball in the SEC specifically. And to witness firsthand the change, the culture change, the on-court product change, and now today seeing people invested in women's athletics. I mean,
Yeah.
Daniel, this has been a historic year for people being invested in women's athletics at Auburn. The sky's the limit, right?
It is. Obviously, volleyball had arguably its best season in program history. Set and broke its all-time attendance record, I believe.
3 times.
3 times. Then Auburn women's basketball did that today, and I feel a big year coming for Auburn softball at this rate, and Auburn gymnastics just as popular as ever, despite losing a very key piece, but still the fan support is there, and like I said earlier, it just goes to show that Auburn will support you. If you are capable of putting on a show, and you show that, there will be plenty of orange and blue filling the venue to root for you.
Absolutely. This is a tremendous win on the court for Coach Jay and company. I mean, like you mentioned, Daniel, it's a signature win for Coach Jay, and she's got two in a couple of years, and 2 and 3 years. And we talked before you decided you need to go focus on your life, which is rude. I'm kidding. Not calling Daniel out, never taking shots at Mr. Larck here. But we talked before then about how this team is going to win some games they're not supposed to.
Sure.
All right. Let me just go and tell you. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I sure as hell didn't think it was going to be this one.
No. I was talking to Auburn women's basketball sports information director Wes Todd after the game, and I jokingly said, like, "Hey, you remember when I called this at media days in October?" And he was like, "Hell no." I was like, "Because I didn't. I didn't think this was going to happen, but I'll take it for sure." And I'm really excited for the Alabama game next Sunday. Auburn's on a lengthy losing streak to the Crimson Tide in women's basketball. And I can't remember what the exact number is, but I think it ends Sunday. That's my prediction right now.
They're due. They're certainly
due. And it's on my birthday. Like, come on, give me a birthday gift.
They're certainly due. Daniel, thank you for coming back on, man. So good to hear from you. I will see you soon, my friend. Everyone, if you don't already know him, make sure you follow him at Daniel J. Locke on Twitter. I'm sure you already are. He's got more Twitter followers than me and Dylan combined. So he's Mr. Clout over here. We're trying to catch up to you, my man, of 1819 News. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us, my man. Drive safe, getting back home.
Absolutely. Love you guys. Thank you for having me back on. Still love this show, man. Always will.
So good to see you, buddy. I'll see you soon.
Later, guys.
That's it. And that losing streak is 9. I just got it up.
That losing streak is 9. So that is Daniel Locke calling his shot there from 1819 News of Auburn women's basketball snapping that streak against Alabama on Sunday as the show's coming out next week from today. So without further ado, now that we've got one guest off the air, we're going to bring another one in. Friend of the program. You probably know him from being a legend. We know him from Auburn Sports Network and also just being an all-around good dude. And I'm going to bring in Mr. Jacob Hillman at this time, and we're going to talk a little bit about his experience. Mr. Hillman, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are y'all?
Hey, riding high from this afternoon, my friend.
Never been better?
Never been better. I mean, sure. We'll go with that. We're locking in never been better.
That's right.
That's right. Hillman, you were sitting courtside today and got to witness. I said this to Daniel. I don't know if you've heard it yet, but I'm going to use this cliche again. I'm going to open here. When I tell you the number 7,720, how do you control the excitement?
Yeah, that would have been a difficult number to really register before today. But when you see it and you experience it, then you realize that is going to be closer to the norm. Now, is that going to be the number every single game? No, but I think that is going to start a trend, especially with this Auburn fan base of attending these women's basketball games. And I heard Daniel talk about it earlier, the volleyball attendance record as well. You guys talked about that. And I think that's going to continue. And this administration, this athletic program is doing an amazing job of promoting these athletes and these teams and these programs. And I'm excited to see it continue to grow. So today was just the start, and I think that it continues to get better.
The environment was great, but let's talk about that ball game.
For sure.
Let's dive into that, and we're gonna have Jacob Hillman we're gonna wrap up women's basketball, and then we're gonna roll over into men's basketball. His bread and butter, his former president of the jungle. Everybody bow down. Here comes the chief. Hail to the chief. Jacob. I just called you Jacob. I'm never doing that again. Hillman. All right. Buckle up with me for a second here. You were most impressed by Auburn's ability to do blank on this afternoon.
Create turnovers and create chaos, especially in that first quarter and really in the second half. Second quarter was, I thought LSU found its balance and really got back in the game. But really that first quarter and the second half, this Auburn defense was really, really incredible and strong and forced turnovers the entire time and really was able to convert those into points. And that was important because going back to what Daniel said, this LSU offense averages 90-plus points per game, and you hold them to 62, but you got to score yourself. And whenever you're going up against a strong team like this, number 7 in the nation, defending national champions, and All-American and Angel Reese in the middle, it's going to be difficult to do that unless you're just firing from 3. And Auburn did all right from 3, made a couple of big shots, especially towards the end of the game, but it really was about those turnovers and converting them into points. So I also thought the rebounding was solid, and especially when you didn't have necessarily the height advantage, once Owen and Savannah Scott both got in foul trouble. They did a really nice job of not allowing those any offensive rebounds. Didn't really result in too many second chance points. So I was impressed by the rebounding and especially the defensive chaos.
Absolutely. I'm going to let Dylan ask a question that I got one that's going to put you on the spot, and you can say no, you don't want to answer it. It's cool.
Well, we are now in year 3 of the Coach J era, and now have 2 top
10.
5, but top 10 wins. Sadly, this one did not result in a court storming. I definitely felt like it should have, especially whenever you beat a team that's won a championship the prior year. But transitive property, Auburn is the 2022 national champions because
2023.
2023.
You
Yes.
just skipping a year?
Give them all. We're now in the business. We're now in the business of claiming national champions. We have 5 now in football. Come on, we can claim another one. Why not? Where would you put where would you put this rebuild? Like where are we at?
Yeah, I think you're in a good spot, and I really think that when you see the atmosphere and again the buy-in as well as the really the recruits that were in attendance today, then you know that this program is on the way up and it's continuing to trend up. Obviously, you didn't start SEC play the way you wanted to, but you had an impressive non-conference schedule, and you've had moments throughout this conference slate that certainly seems like Auburn belongs, at least in the middle of the SEC, which is fine right now. You're not going to be competing with the South Carolinas as far as season-long conference record goes of the world. And same with LSU. LSU will end up being 1 or 2 in the SEC right there with South Carolina. But if you're Auburn, you're looking to finish right there in the top half of the league, and you have a chance to make the tournament. And obviously that's the goal this year after making it to the NIT and winning a game in the NIT last year. These girls want to make the NCAA tournament. So you're in a really solid spot. And I really hope that those recruits that were here this weekend get to see what this coaching staff is about and what this program and team is about. Because, like I said, it's just getting started. And again, I think as far as the current state, how this season goes, hopefully this can spark a run. Hopefully you can go to Vanderbilt, beat a ranked Vandy team, and then come back home and win in front of another big crowd against Alabama to snap that losing streak against them. So I really do think that this season could turn around instantly. I love what I saw from them in the non-conference play. So I think that getting this win has to build some confidence. And you didn't have any third quarter woes like you have in pretty much all 3 games so far in SEC play today. So you got to continue that, find some consistency, and you never know where you'll find yourself in March.
Agree completely. I think you hit the nail on the head. As AJ Rivera mentions, he thinks tonight's win shows that Auburn's capable of beating the best and can mess around and win the SEC tournament. I mean, once you get to March, nothing matters.
Right. And this team has the capability to get hot and find its rhythm shooting. We saw it in some of those non-conference games. And I really think some of the guard play is starting to come around. Honestly, Scott Grayson, obviously, scoring at her will.
She's unbelievable.
Jemiah Mingo-Young, she has been an impressive leader coming into her first year as a transfer, but she's obviously one of the older players on the roster. And then Caitlin Duhan, she has found her role as that 6th man off the first one off the bench and 6th man on the team, and has been so impressive doing that. And Marshawn Bostic, obviously, she continues to work in her role, and I think it's something where you're going to see some of these roles expand at some point. But right now, they are playing and competing at a great level and are just trying to find their groove once they continue into SEC play.
Well, as I put a little bow on this, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, let's call a spade here, Hillman. We talked about this with Daniel, and then I'll mention this again to you before I ask you my final question. If you could take back a couple of third quarters, Auburn's looking at a pretty damn good SEC record.
Right, and I mean, I look back to that Tennessee game when you had an 11-point lead at the half. What a start to SEC play if you'd been able to hold on to that win, and who knows what happens on that road trip to College Station and Oxford if you're able to pull that one out. That you probably build that confidence then, but it is what it is. You're going to lose games.
Yeah,
in conference
absolutely.
play. That's
Especially
how
in this league.
An 0-3 start isn't obviously ideal, but you can make ways with it.
You absolutely can. And here's my closing question as we get ready to pivot over to men's basketball. Conveniently, also beating LSU. Bad weekend to be an LSU basketball fan. Does this Auburn team, this women's basketball team, have it in them to make the tournament this year?
I think so. Because, like I said, what we saw today, what we saw in that first half against Tennessee, what we've seen at times, even on the road against Texas A&M and Ole Miss, is that they are capable. They are a legit squad. And this is a little bit different than previous years where I felt like you really had to win all of those games. I feel like what it was a few years ago, it wasn't about stealing games, which Auburn has done a great job of. I mean, you have ranked wins against Tennessee. You have ranked wins against Georgia Tech. So Auburn's been able to steal wins and win games that they aren't supposed to, so to say. But it's about winning those games that maybe you are supposed to. And I think that finding that consistency starts next Sunday against Alabama, right back at Neville Arena, hopefully in front of another packed-out electric crowd. Obviously, Thursday is going to be a tough matchup at Vanderbilt. So you're not expected to win that one. If you do, you are rolling going into that rivalry game on Sunday. So it's all about finding consistency. And if they do that, then who knows what the second half of January and what all of February looks like. So it's all about putting yourself in position and making those net rankings and all of that resume building stuff look good.
Speaking of resume building, let's pivot over to men's basketball right here on the College League Podcast. That's why we brought Hillman on. Hillman, you were just courtside. We couldn't not talk to you about the big women's basketball win today. I knew you were excited too. So wanted to touch base with you here. All right, Dylan, I'm going to let you drive for the majority of this, but I'm just going to go ahead and lay it out there on the line. I can say this, Jacob Hillman can't, even if he does agree. I'm not saying he does. He doesn't always agree with me. I'm not always right like him. Auburn tried their best to look horrid in the second half of this game. They really did. And I've got some grievances that I'm going to bite my tongue and hold on to, either until Hillman leaves so he's not attached to it or close to that time frame. But Auburn sneaks out a win, and I say sneaks out because they were up by almost 30 and win this game 93-78 against LSU on Saturday. Dylan, I'm going to let you drive. Hillman, there's a lot of good stuff to take away from this game, but there's equally enough stuff that you can say, what on God's green earth did we just witness? So, Dylan, I'm going to let you drive wherever you want to start. The world's your oyster, my friend.
And I will say, just got a notification on my phone that a 5-star wide receiver just decommitted from Alabama. So, but the biggest storyline from this, from Auburn's men's basketball beating LSU, I don't want to get them confused. It's gonna be a little confusing talking about it from the rest of the show. Biggest storyline: Bo Nix's return to Auburn, as he was in Neville Arena to watch Auburn take down LSU. Also, a lot of funny pictures of him and Walker White. So.
Let me be real. I'm so glad that Bo got the applause that he deserves as an Auburn man, as an Auburn graduate. It was cool to see him back. I mean, listen, when you work in sports, you're going to wear many different hats, and that is what it is. He's now a Central Phoenix City guy instead of a Pitts and Valley guy, and he's going to rep Oregon as well, but he's still an Auburn man through and through. So it was good to see him at the game and get that nice applause.
Yeah, and Auburn did take the dub behind 19 points by one Chad Baker-Mazara. If you're an LSU Tiger, it was a scary day to see someone with a hyphen in their last name, I must say. Chad Baker-Mazara, Scott Grayson, Jemiah Mingo Young all went ham against LSU Tigers. And it can't help but mention, we finally got more than 1 3 from Aiden Holloway. He seemed to finally find a groove early on in the game, got 13 total points, and cannot ever forget that Janiah Broome is, of course, a dog. Hillman, I just wanted to get your.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Did you say something like that?
I think I got a lottery. Sorry, I had a little something going on there. I'm putting in the groundwork for him, Hillman. I'm in the trenches.
I can see that.
I'm in the trenches.
Hillman, I'll get your immediate thoughts on this game, and then we got some bullet points we'll hit on throughout the remainder of the basketball talk.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back on what Harrison was saying. There were points in this game where you were a little nervous. I mean, even when Auburn went up 28, you felt really good about this team and that game. And then obviously bang, 21-2 run for LSU, and you're wondering what the heck happened. And some of it was some lack of discipline and effort on defense, and also just LSU making shots. They had 4 consecutive possessions making threes. How often is that going to happen? It's not going to happen very often. But what happened after that is where Auburn kind of fell apart on offense and wasn't able to get anything going, and went on a scoreless streak. It didn't seem like the Tigers were running their offense like they wanted to.
It didn't look like they're running their offense at all. I'll say it.
Right. Yeah. It was weird. But here's the positive. You grew such a large lead that LSU went on that run, and it got down to as low as 9 points. As soon as it hits that single digit mark, you get a little worried. But as soon as that happened, Auburn found its stride again and was able to pull away and win by 15. That's the fact of the matter, is that Auburn led by 28, Auburn won by 15, and you felt a little weird about it. You didn't feel super excited because there was a 10-minute span or so that did look like great basketball, and that's a fact. So I think that this team is really starting to win in different ways. I thought that Texas A&M win on Tuesday night was a big stepping stone.
It's just gutsy.
Right. Obviously, when you go into Bud Walton and Arkansas quits after 10, 15 minutes, then you don't really get a lot of work done that you can really use moving forward. Now, that Texas A&M win, you will look back on that one and say, this was the time that this player stepped up and whatnot. Point being,
sure,
I was glad to see Auburn stay in it, not obviously not give up that lead, but more so finish the game strong after giving up that big run.
I was going to let Dylan drive the whole time, but I'm the world's biggest liar because I got to jump in here. 21-2, right?
Yes.
21-2.
Yeah.
Saved by the under 4, right? Am I wrong? Stopped by the under 4.
Correct.
You can't die with them. You can't die with your timeouts. You can't carry them over game to game. And I am so for players coach. Bruce Pearl's the right guy at Auburn. He's one of the best coaches in the country, if not the best coach in the country in terms of players coach, being able to recruit talent, develop talent. But sometimes, yes, beyond his departure from Auburn in retirement, whatever long future that will be, you're absolutely correct. You can't carry the one. That one timeout doesn't give you 5 next game. Those 4 timeouts doesn't give you 8 next game. Spend them at some point. That is my one biggest gripe I think I've ever had with BP is sometimes you just got to kill the momentum. And I know that this is not the business you're in here, Jacob. I'm not attaching myself to you. This is my own independent thoughts. I'm an independent thinker sometimes. All right. But you start going, all right, doing like the Peyton Manning. I'd call a timeout here. Okay, I'd call a timeout. Timeout.
Well, and what I'll have to say about that is you mentioned the players coach thing. That's what it's all about.
Sure.
He wants his guys to figure it out. He wants his guys to learn and do that.
It's a trust thing.
And I think in previous years, it has definitely cost Auburn at times. It has changed the flow of the game or the momentum of the game. And that it is what it is, that you come with the good, you get the bad as well. That's with everything. And I think that what you saw last night was definitely not that happening because you had such a large lead. And I just think this team's different. I just really do think this team is different, that no matter who's on the floor, you have trust in them. And I think that's why Coach Pearl didn't call a timeout, even when it felt like, all right, Aiden, that was one too many threes that you should have taken. Probably not the best shot in the world. It's because he's a freshman, and it's time for him to learn. And guess what? The guy right behind him on the bench is a sophomore that's having an absolute surge of a season.
A brilliant season.
It's something to watch because they were both in during that run. Trey was kind of in at the start of it. Then Aiden came in at the end of it. But I thought it was really nice to see, again, just them figuring it out. And I think that
teaching moment.
Right. And again, I'm sure I wasn't on Twitter because I was doing regular work, but I'm sure Twitter was freaking out about him not calling a timeout. so be it. It is what it is. I
won the game.
Right. I think that LSU at that point was also kind of gassing itself out.
Yeah.
Don't give them a free timeout, and obviously they're not going to call one to stop that run. So I think this team is different. I think they have their way of figuring it out without the help of the coaching staff as far as directly on the floor. They don't need to call timeout. They want to keep flowing and find that. And I also here's another thing. I think that these guys, they also find those spurts where, I mean, you blink and they've gone on and run. That doesn't happen with a lot of teams. There's a lot of teams that you don't see that from. But I think it starts with that second wave of Trey Donaldson, KD Johnson, Chad Baker-Mazara, Dylan Cardwell, and Chaney Johnson. Those 5 guys, when they come in, I mean, it's lightning in a bottle. You never know what's going to happen.
You're right.
So,
look, I'm not saying that this group could beat the 21-22 team. All I'm saying is it'd be a fun game. They got that team had players that a lot. I mean, 2 NBA.
A few of the same.
What'd you say?
A few of the same players. Too.
Yeah, we'd have to clone a couple guys. There'd be 2 Simos and 2 J Wills running around,
and 2 Cardwells.
Do we need 2 KD Johnsons running in the world?
Or Leo Bermans.
There's already 2 KD Johnsons in the world. One of them is just
there's the other one of
Mazara. One of them is just 6 inches taller and a little bit more consistent.
You see, Jacob, you messed up by agreeing to come on the loop because now we are talking Auburn basketball, and we're going to let some of our listeners kind of throw some questions at you. How huge is it for Auburn the Tennessee and Kentucky lost this week?
I don't think it matters that much right now. It's early in SEC play. It is interesting. If you look at the top of the SEC standings, state of Alabama is actually pacing the league. That probably hasn't happened very often in history. But yes, I think now what I think it's good for is seeing them exposed. You're going to have that on film. You're going to be able to study that and figure out why Texas A&M was able to score 97 points or 80-something points in regulation against the Wildcats. And then with Tennessee, why did they struggle on the road so much, losing at Mississippi, and probably should have lost against Georgia, trailed by as many as 11 in the second half of that game. So as far as the results, doesn't really matter. But looking at it from that aspect, they've both been exposed, and Auburn will be exposed at some point too. You're not going to go 18-0. That's a simple fact. So
that's where Hillman said the first wrong thing on this podcast, but that's all right.
I will say the Kentucky game, the NCAA did void that loss to Texas A&M because of the fact that Ty Washington wasn't playing.
Yeah.
So they voided it. But
I thought maybe they were going to request a new floor at Reed Arena, kind of. Last December they had some issues with their floor up in Rupp, but
it happens. I'm so glad you're level-headed because I actually think those 2 losses were huge. So anyways, let's go into is J. Will playing his way into the NBA draft. Now this is a question, and I didn't think that this would be a real question coming into this season, but here we are.
I know where he should go.
That's what I was looking at.
I know where he should go.
I know the OKC fans would love that.
They love another Jalen Williams. There's never enough.
I need a J. Will to J. Will to J. Will in my life. I need that highlight.
Get Hillman, can you give us a little sound bit what that would sound like? Williams kicks it out to the top of the key to Williams, who's going to lob it to Williams.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it'll sound way better when it actually happens next year because Jalen is absolutely playing himself into the NBA draft now. As far as first round production, I don't think we're there yet. He's going to have to do it against this tough competition that's coming up over the next month. I think when you're playing the Kentuckys and the Tennessees, that's when he's going to have to make his money. But as far as draftable and showing his ability, absolutely. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. And it was all about him finding that scoring range and playing well on defense. So, Jalen is really playing his absolute butt off this year. And I think he's the one guy you might see his minutes continue to increase because we talked about, and Chris Pearl has talked about his rotation. He's not going to shorten it. That he doesn't do that. I do think that Jalen at some point will have a 35-minute game. I think he will because he will get that dang hot, and he really hasn't cooled off since that Indiana game. He's been real dominant. So I'm excited. Even if he's not scoring 20 points, he has been dominant with drawing attention to him or just on the defensive end. So
plus minus speaks for itself.
Exactly. And we're talking about Chad Baker-Mazara. His plus minus is incredible for limited action. So
sure.
What I would say about Jalen, though, is that he is going to continue to grow and get confident. I feel like that's the thing we talked about these last 4 years with Jalen is if his confidence were to grow and increase, he would be by far the best player on the floor. And he is starting to show that. I mean, you look at some of these dunk attempts and some of these dunks that he's made over the last several games. We have not, other than that dunk off the backboard he had against Tennessee his freshman year, we haven't seen that since then. And now it feels like he's becoming more aggressive and he's finding his spots, whether that's from three, whether that's that mid-range float, or whether he's going to go rip someone's face off at the rim. He's going to do it if he's confident.
The definition of having patience and trusting the process, really, Jalen Williams. And kind of on that same note, what's up, Dylan?
In terms of taking someone's face off at the rim, Tar, I believe I am more experienced and the better person that started this conversation because I'm a lot higher on this player than you are. Because that is one Mr. Dylan Cardwell.
I was going to – okay. Yeah, you know what? Go ahead.
Who last night had 5 points. He had 6 rebounds. He had 3 assists. He had 1 steal. And this man had 4 blocks. Dylan Cardwell playing at the highest level of Dylan Cardwell that we have seen and the most consistent Dylan Cardwell we have seen thus far. And to talk about AJ's question, is Cardwell playing his way into a G League / overseas contract?
It's possible, but here's the thing. Dylan, I believe, has another year of eligibility.
Yeah.
So
I was about to say that.
I don't know if that's necessarily in consideration right now for him. Now, I don't want to speak for him and say that, but I mean, the way he loves Auburn and the fact that he is the backup. If Jedi Broom were to go to the NBA, which I think we kind of expect it
to happen, anyways,
right?
Then
he's going to have a chance to be the starter next year, and that's how he can prove himself even more. And here's the thing: early in this season, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I thought he's been great this season. I thought he struggled a little bit early on,
for sure.
And right around that USC game, something clicked, something turned, and he started dominating. At first, it was just on the defensive end. I thought nothing's getting past Dylan. If he is patrolling the paint, he is not going to let anything get by him. But then he found confidence in his offense. And I think he's had that confidence all year, but now he's starting to showcase it a little bit. Whether that's flying in from half court and dunking a ball, or even if he gets the ball in the post, him actually making a move and scoring with it. Or even if it's as simple as drawing fouls and really wearing out their other big guy. Because, again, this is about this team's depth, is that even when Janai Broom comes out, well, guess what? You have to deal with Dylan. And he's obviously a player that plays with so much effort and energy that guarding him, even if he is struggling, is difficult and will wear you out. And I think we can see some benches really struggle against him as well as the rest of the 4 later on.
Yeah, and like Liam mentioned, him going 3 for 4 from the line was impressive.
Mm-hmm. I think he leads the team in free throw percentage.
Wouldn't shock me.
It's either him or Denver.
So because Dylan hasn't shot as many free throws, but to find that volume, so I think he had Tobias Harris's shooting coach come in this summer and kind of help him out with that. And obviously, Tobias has a great relationship with Coach Pearl, as Coach Pearl coached him at Tennessee way back. But I really think that having that taken care of, and especially coming off that Houston loss in the NCAA tournament, I think that was a big focus for a lot of this team.
Right.
They really wanted to make sure they shot the ball from the charity stripe better, but also it's interesting how he shoots the line drive free throw. And
Sonny Smith, the best line drive shooter, free throw shooter of all time.
It's crazy, and it's something that you don't have a lot of room for error. I mean, his misses are ugly, but they happen quite less than they used to. So I really think that he's found his confidence and everywhere where whatever he's asked to do or whatever he's finding success in, he's going to continue to do because he knows the rest of his game will follow.
And I got the stat wrong. He does not lead the team in free throw percentage. He leads the team in field goal percentage.
There's
A lot
your
of
number.
dunks.
That's right. A lot of dunks. Jacob Hillman, thank you for joining us today, my friend. Go ahead and plug yourself where everybody can find you, where they can hang out with you and your work, and also one of the voices of Auburn softball.
Yes.
We
will be
right here.
Yeah, we'll be getting that. We'll be getting ready for softball in the coming months. So that's going to be exciting when baseball and softball are both getting back into action, and Britt, JJ, and I will have a blast calling games this season. So we're looking forward to that because I expect this non-conference schedule for softball to test the Tigers a little bit more than we've seen in previous years. You see so much tougher matchups coming to J&B Moore Field in that early preseason. So,
well, if you want to help us knock out one more segment, you can go and highlight the ones that you're circling for us real quick because that was actually coming up next.
Why not? Listen, I need to pull up the schedule so I can tell you by date. But I mean, I know that first one. You got Virginia Tech at home to open the season, and Illinois. I don't think Auburn's had an opening tournament like that at home, maybe ever. And probably happened in 2017 or 2018. But now it's looking like an exciting non-conference schedule, which is something that you haven't seen. Then after you go to Mexico, you do have a bit of a less challenging tournament in the non-conference. But then you go to UAB and you come back home, and you've got Northwestern, who was a College World Series team 2 years ago, and you faced them last year. I think you got one against them, but you lost the other one. So I look at that non-conference schedule as it's going to tell us a lot about this softball team early on, and I'm excited to see them in action, and I'm ready to see J&B Moore Field packed again. And again, this is going to be an exciting time for Auburn Athletics, especially see the men's basketball and women's basketball teams make the NCAA tournament in March. That crossover season is going to be awesome.
It's going to be a blast. All right. Thank you for spending time with us, Hillman, on this fine Sunday evening. Looking forward to seeing you this weekend, my friend. Cannot get here soon enough so we can have a crisp dap and enjoy an adult bevy. It's going to be a great time. Make sure that you plug yourself so that way where they can find you. Love you and support you, my friend.
Yeah, and I'll give a little quick rundown of some of the events going on this week with the Auburn Sports Network. Tomorrow night, Baumhauer's Coach Jay Show. Recapping that LSU win, getting ready for Vanderbilt. That'll be live on the Auburn Tigers YouTube as well if you want to watch it live or you're not in the Auburn area. And then Thursday, we'll have Tiger Talk back at Baumhauer's Victory Grill. Coach Pearl and hopefully a player and another sports coach will join us then. That's at 6 Central on the Auburn Sports Network. But also this week, you're going to have another chance to watch Auburn Gymnastics against number 2 Florida on Friday at 5 o'clock at Neville Arena. Very limited number of tickets available, but you can get a drink rub ticket at Auburn, aubtix.com. And then obviously Saturday, Ole Miss comes to town and faces the men's team at 7:30 Central. Auburn Sports Network coverage begins at 7. That's going to be the throwback game. So if you're coming to the game, be on the lookout for some of the cool shirts and logos that are going to be available at the game.
Go. That's hype.
And that'll continue onto Sunday when Auburn hosts Alabama in women's basketball. There's going to be DeWanna Bonner, her jersey retirement, and her banner being hanged in the arena. So
well deserved.
That is going to be awesome. I don't have the game time for that one. I'm guessing it's at 2 Central. It might be at 1. But whatever time it is,
Britt Bowen, is at 2 p.m. Central.
So 2 Central. Britt Bowen, Dr. Larry DeShera will go on the air at 1:45 on the Auburn Tigers app. So you've got a loaded week, and obviously the 2 road trips for men's and women's basketball to Vanderbilt on Wednesday and Thursday. So if you're in the Nashville area, you've got a great chance to take in some Auburn hoops on Wednesday and Thursday night.
Excellent.
But, follow me on Twitter at Jacob Hillman AU. Follow at AU Sports Network, and we'll have broadcast details for you for each and every broadcast.
Hillman, always a pleasure to talk to you, buddy. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out on the loop.
Yeah, it was good to feel loopy again for the first time in a while. But
don't be a stranger. Let's not make the gap this long next time.
I know. I always love talking to you guys. I appreciate the time. War Eagle.
War Eagle, buddy.
War Eagle.
He's so polished. He's so good at his job. It's unbelievable.
It's almost like he works next to Andy Burcham.
It is almost like he worked with Andy Burcham and Brad Law.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like he's got a good set of mentors. That was Jacob Hillman of the Auburn Sports Network, one of close friend of the program, close friend of mine, and Dylan's both. Someone that we went through the journalism school ranks with at Auburn and graduated should have graduated right next to, but he was sick as a dog and missed commencement. So great to have him on as we continue on our slate.
I would say last basketball news, because I just want to shout out and congratulations at Mr. Carter Sabrera for getting his scholarship after the LSU game.
Big time. That's huge. Congratulations, Carter Sabrera.
Yeah.
And as we round things out, gymnastics loss at the hands of number 7 Kentucky at the time, now number 9 in the rankings. Let's talk a little bit, Dylan, just really briefly, and we've already run an hour and 20 on this one, and beat the people to death. They're ready to go and watch some Detroit Lions football, which is something I never thought I would say in my life. But
go Lions! Come on,
Dylan, I'll let you give us the breakdown on this one, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, it was overall it was a pretty close matchup. Auburn fell off in the beam department. It looked like beam is starting to look like what was last year's vault, where we've now seen multiple instances of where it just wasn't going well. Overall, they scored a 49.1 on beam, which did end up costing Auburn the dub by 0.4.
Yeah,
5.45, I believe is the correct math on that. But yeah, this is it's a tough matchup. You're playing against a top 10 team in the country that's going to definitely compete for SEC and national awards
with a lot of returners.
With a lot of returners. Auburn, of course, was down 2 of their best performers. One of those being an Olympic athlete, and the other one being good enough to be an Olympic athlete as well, especially with her floor routines. Because Darren Goborn is a
WWE superstar.
Yeah, I don't watch WWE. I never plan to in my life, but if Darren Goborn is going to be making an appearance, I might be making an appearance.
I will be breaking my WWE silence if that's the case.
But yeah, it was a match that showed Auburn is improving, and that's all Jeff Grabo wanted. He wanted to win, but wanted, if they lost, to show improvement, and I think they did that. Now it's just time to show that improvement and get consistent. That's all it's going to take. And then in other news, Tarr.
One final announcement before we get out of here. There's another national champion on the plane still.
Yeah, talking about claiming national champions. We don't got to claim any for this Tiger, if you will. And it's wild to me that as the Tiger, Aubie can do the things that he does.
Unbelievable. Real Tiger, too.
Exactly. He grew those extra appendages for thumbs, and he actually grew hands as a mutated tiger. And he just goes up there and he just has a good time. And he's now won 11 national champions because he is the best mascot in the country. Got to update the banner on the side of the.
Yeah, got to get a new banner.
Got to get a brand new banner, and they need to leave more room underneath the 11 because
real.
Aubie is the best mascot,
Real.
And he does it because he's not some guy in a costume. That is a real tiger that is sitting there doing flips and dancing and wearing costumes and making kids and adults alike all laugh and enjoy themselves. When I think of GOATs of the sports world, I think of Michael Jordan, I think of Tom Brady, and I think of Aubie the Tiger.
And Serena Williams. And Robbie Douglas.
But at the top of that list is Aubie the Tiger.
Yeah, real. That's so true.
Because does Jordan have 11 championships? No. Does Jordan? No. If you combine both, or does LeBron? No.
Michael Phelps.
I'll give it to him.
Yeah, he had a pretty impressive run.
But here's the thing: humans can swim. Not all tigers can dance.
Real.
So I do think this gives him the edge. So Aubie is the GOAT. He might be a tiger, but he is the GOAT.
Agreed. And that draws to the conclusion today's installment of the College Loop live stream. Man, it wasn't a busy week at all, was it, Dylan? Good Lord, have mercy.
Yeah, I appreciate all of y'all for staying around for an hour and a half.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us right here on the live stream. You guys are the best listeners in the country, in the world, in the universe, and all universes. So we appreciate your continual love and support. If you want to continue to do so, make sure you follow us. Like, subscribe, ring the bell right here on the YouTube channel. Give us your comments. If you're listening to the show back, obviously at this point, you probably would have to be. If you're listening on a streaming platform, make sure you give us 5 stars, thumbs up, and then share the show with a friend so we can continue to grow the College Loop family. You guys are the best and the reason we are able to keep doing what we do. Want to make sure you guys stay updated with everything we've got going on over here. So please hit subscribe. Help us get up there to 800 so we can feed Colin once again. If you want to continue to support the College Loop podcast, you can head over to thewarreport.com. If you don't feel like typing in the link to go pick up your very own Feel Loopy t-shirt, that's all right. It's in the description for any of our shows. You can go pick it up for $25, 5 different colorways. Use hashtag Feelin' Loopy. That's feeling without the G. Whenever you pick up your shirt, and tag us on social media or just send it to us via DM, whatever makes you happy. Of your selfie of you wearing your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt. We'll make sure we throw it up on the show stream. Whatever comes up next, whenever you decide to send it to us. Thank you guys for your continual love and support. I can't tell you guys how much fun this show has been. Congratulations to Johnny Harris and the LSU Tigers, who are going home sad. Not sorry for you. This is a big step for Coach Jay and company over at the Auburn women's basketball program, and another step in the right direction for BP and company. Auburn football never ends. Auburn athletics never ends. We are getting ready to run what we consider the gauntlet of Auburn athletics in the spring. Y'all think football's a bear? Wait till we get to the spring, where we've got 5 sports going on at one time, and it's a blast, and everybody has fun. I'm Harrison Tarr, by Harrison Tarr, the Bird app, and my voice is actively going out, so I'm going to go and get out of here. But I want to tell you guys, you can hang out with me on the Bird app or on Instagram by Harrison Tarr. Some of your good takes, some of your bad takes, and everything in between. Thank you guys. Love you guys all. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Dylan, let's get out of here.
Of course, I'm Dylan. I have Tank on Twitter /X at YABOY the Tank. Also, right. I'm now too zoomed in now. It's not right there. Also have Instagram as well at Dylan Larck at DYLANLARCK. And you guys can catch me right here on the College Loop. Please like, comment, subscribe. Leave your thoughts on the coach departures or any future coaches you would like Hugh Freeze to bring in to fill out his support staff. And, of course, leave your predictions for upcoming Auburn basketball games. We have Vanderbilt coming up very soon for men's basketball. And I do believe the women's team is also playing Vanderbilt as well. Are they both playing Vanderbilt?
Men play Vanderbilt this week and women play Vanderbilt this week. And I believe they might both be on the road. Let me double check.
I know the men are. I think the women are too.
Yeah, men and women are both back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday. That's what Hillman was just saying just a moment ago. Are both in Nashville, Tennessee this weekend. Or not this weekend, this midweek.
Exactly. And, of course, let us know what softball games you're going to be attending. Me and my girlfriend love Auburn softball. Probably up there, I'd probably say Auburn softball is my 3rd favorite sport, and it's pretty close. So I love me some softball. We're going to be there, so let us know what games you plan on attending. But, of course, if you like the show, go make sure to like, comment, subscribe again. Go follow us on social media as well on Twitter /X, whatever you feel like calling it. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of those at the College Loop. Also have us audio versions of the show as well. That's going to be at the College Loop. It's going to be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Let me know if you want to see a tour of all of my jerseys that I don't have behind me, because I have a good chunk of those. And, of course, all that being said, thank y'all for joining the live stream. We're going to all go watch the Detroit Lions win their first playoff game since before me and Tar were born. And with all that being said, this has been the live installment of the 153rd episode of the College Loop Podcast.
Love you guys.